Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well, although it's good morning in the UK. I think it's 2:30 in the afternoon in Malaysia. The objective of this session is to make sure you can pass SBL, and I'm going to make sure that happens. But for you to make it sure it happens for you personally, I would also really encourage you to ask questions. Yeah, this session is for you. It's not for anyone else but you. And if you're taking your exam in December, it's going to be useful, but you might even be taking it in March as well. And I want to, first of all, talk a little bit about the SBL exam and how to be successful, but I also want to talk about how we need to prepare for that so we're successful. In terms of me and my background, some of you may know me, but I've been coming to Malaysia when there was maybe only one shopping center, which was Lot 10. That was how you got around. There was certainly no beautiful railway system like you have now. It was the Bas Mini who used to race around the streets of KL. So I love KL. I love Malaysia. I've traveled all around it. I've actually traveled all around it on a Bas Mini many moons ago. So yeah, I've got a lot of empathy with the issues people have. And yeah, so ask me any questions which you want. One thing, I'm just going to try one more time. I can't see my chat panel. Let me see if I can put my chat panel up on the screen. I'm going to do that just now, just in case you do have any questions. It will come through in the Q&A or the chat. Let me have a look. Sometimes there's a chat panel. Yeah, let me pull the chat up. Right. Casey, good morning. Good morning. I've got a knife. That's what I wanted to see. For some reason, the chat panel wasn't showing, but now it is. So that's fantastic. So good morning, Casey. How are you and where are you based? You can add your questions in the chat panel. It would be good if this is a two-way process. I'll just give Casey maybe a second to say hello. Crystal's from Malaysia. I'm assuming, whereabouts in Malaysia are you, Crystal? Lemon, good morning. Beatrice, good morning. Crystal's in KL, hi. Who else have we got? Whoa, Joanne's got me a big one there. Hello, everyone. Well, it's Joanne. I've talked to Joanne already this morning. Yes, that is a very good idea, Joanne. Joanne, there's me assuming you all know what's going on. I do apologize. There's a chat box. If you've got any questions, sorry, that is my fault really for not giving some house rules. Just type them in the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom and send to all participants so we can see who's there. Kashita, good morning. Lemons from JB. Great. Hello. So please, that's where you do your questions, and that's my job. My job is there to deal with any queries you may have. I'm just looking at the state of that bus. Look at the state of it. Yeah, please do that, and that makes it a two-way interactive session. And if you have any specific questions, I can obviously be here to help. So yeah, that's established that. The other thing with regards to questions, you don't need to wait to ask them. Just just get on in there. There are a few of us on there. Otherwise, I'd let you all have your microphones on, but I think it's probably too many of us on the presentation to have our microphones on. So yeah, so let's move on from the Bas Mini, but what I want to talk about is give a quick introduction. Linny, good afternoon, and Faratun, good afternoon. What are the objectives? So in terms of me and my background, I've been lecturing students for over 25 years. What else would I say about myself? I've set a business up on Jalan Pudu, which was Emil Wolf Colleges. What else have I done? Um, I've been to KL probably more than 60 times, and other parts of Malaysia as well. I work as part of the Train the Trainer team for the ACCA. So your professors, if you have them in KL, may have received lectures from me on how to teach SBL well. So yeah, I've got a few things of experience. In the UK, the organisation that was Kaplan, I was a founder shareholder of. Yeah, I'm also the current UK Lecturer of the Year and have been runner-up for that on a couple of occasions. So hopefully you can have a little bit of confidence in my advice, in that it's, it's based on a lot of experience. It's based on a lot of contacts with the ACCA, and I genuinely want you to pass the exam. So that's me. In terms of what our course is going to look at, we've got 2 sessions. We've got today and then we've got tomorrow. What I want to do today is kind of just remind you about how we pass our exams and tell you resources you can access so that you can pass more easily. Also give you a framework to pass. Yep. Essentially, what I see this session to be is teaching you to fish as opposed to giving you a fish, if that makes sense. Because if you just give someone fish, you can feed them for a day. Whereas if you teach someone to fish, you can feed them for life. Yep. So that's what we're doing. In terms of objectives, I want to talk about how we're going to set goals, and look at where we are at the moment. So in terms of objectives, what are we looking at? Well, I'm going to get you to reflect. Have you set goals, I wonder? So Shin Min, good morning. How are you? Have you thought about goals for your studies? Are you taking your exams in December? Maybe someone can, well, actually, I'm going to do a poll on that in a moment. So don't worry, we're still getting warm. I want you to get your mindset sorted. Yep. And by that, I mean, we need to have clarity. The exam, if we're taking it in December, is getting a bit closer now, and we need to start really focusing on what we need to do to pass our exam. Yep. So it's about getting ready to pass. Yep. So I want to go through each step now in a little bit more detail. So the first thing I want to say to you is, when are we taking our exam? Yep, and I've got a quick poll for you. So this is going to wake you up. Are we taking our exam in December, or are we taking our exam in March? So there should be a poll coming up on your screen, which will let you know, are we taking it in December, March, or are you still not sure? So just click on one of those boxes. Or Wei Hin, thank you. What we have to do, we can click on this poll on the screen. You don't need to answer in the chat box, because the poll will work out how many people are taking it when. So if you could do that, that would be great. Hello, Nicole. Whoa, 99% of us are taking it in December. Great. That is very, very clear. That's very, very clear. 99% of us doing SBL this December. Wow. That is a lot of us. So thank you for that. So in terms of what are we doing then, where are we now, I wonder, on our journey? Yep. there's 2% of us not decided, but I'm going to go for the 99%. It's a very clear. How is our studying going? Morning, Johnny. Is our studying, are we on track? I mean, lockdown has messed it up a little bit, and that's why I'm here to try to give you some tips to help you sort out your progress. How are we feeling? Maybe if you can answer in the chat box, just a very quick, how I'm feeling. Huh. Amira's nervous. Nervous is not a bad thing. Little nervous. Nervous and scared. Lee Way, thank you. Lost. Many students are feeling lost, if I'm honest. You're trying Preston questions now. Hopefully not actually now. 50% not confident, tired, on track, nervous, demotivated. Wow, this is great. Thank you. Nervous. I mean, we've got to channel those nerves. Nerves isn't a bad thing. No confidence. Beatrice, don't worry. We will sort this out. Yao Nang is panicking. Jani is a bit nervous. Don't worry if your English isn't fantastic, Crystal. It's not an exam in English eloquence, as long as you get your point across. Worried about sitting a remote exam. Okay, that's a good point, Wei. You must be on the ACCA CBE platform to make sure that your familiarization with the computer-based exam is fine. It is, I think it's easier doing it on a computer-based exam, but you do need to be familiar. Okay, not great, not motivated, but you're making yourself doing a bit of studying every day. Good, that becomes a habit. Whoa, Lemon's come up with positive. This pandemic gives me more time to study. It's a blessing. Great. Look at the positive, Lemon. That's fantastic. Whoa. So Nur must have had a lot of good exemptions, as SBL will be her first paper of the ACCA. So nervous. Okay. Okay. They're great comments. Thank you very much for all of those. At least we know where we are. So it's very important, if we're able to go forward, that we know where we are now. So I would ask you, what might be stopping you from studying? Yeah, maybe give you a couple of moments to think. We got this exam, we're nervous about it, we want to pass it. What's stopping us from studying to do well? Maybe put some reasons in the chat box. What's stopping you from studying? Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Casey's failed the exam twice. Okay. Top one reason, Adrian, thank you. You're lazy. Oh, cool. You're coming through fast and furious. Oh, Shamal, I didn't realize that, but you say it requires so much money to buy data for internet access. Okay. I suppose I don't know, we can go to a coffee shop and get internet access there. That might be procrastination. Thank you, Kai. Lemon is lazy. Daniel, time pressure is so intense. Farah, don't understand the question when doing exercises. You're on YouTube, Liu. Okay. Social media, Car. Teresa, workload at work, working and studying, distracted by devices, heavy workload. I'm a part-time student, so balancing studying and work is challenging. Liana, it is, but most people are part-time students doing SBL. How many kids do you have? How many people do you have working for you? Because a lot of people doing this exam have loads of screaming kids and have, staff that need managing as well as working. So if you don't have that, lucky you. Oh, one panel put your name. I think the exam will cancel, therefore I don't have mood to study. Well, why are you assuming that? Nobody said anything about that. I think I'm going to end this webinar now, because I think the world's going to end tomorrow. So I might as well just stop now, go and have some fun. Come on. I don't know your name. I'm sorry, but be positive. Lockdown, you can't go to the library. Okay, that's unfortunate, Kai, but there are other places maybe you can go. You can't even go to the coffee shop in UK at the moment. They're all shut. Jenny, procrastination. Don't know which one to focus on more. Don't know which one to focus more. Turn out I'm being lazy. Okay, working, studying. This is great. Been reading like a robot. Not great, John. Jani, social media. Lots of you are saying social media, taking care of siblings, cooking, doing house chores. Vivian, you sound like a superwoman. Not enough time to study. Not sure the point we describe is what the examiner wants for us. We are describing. Well, Brenda, just keep following it, Brenda. I'm looking at you before I think about the examiner. It doesn't matter about the examiner for now. It matters about what's stopping you from studying. Nervous, workload. So a little question there, a little lesson. Read the question. Crystal, I failed at 43 in September. My lecture comment that my answer is too lengthy, that caused too many marks, lost many marks. I have headache. Any comment? I will talk about that in detail in the next session, Crystal, actually. Fikri has too much sleeping. My college final exam is in the same week as the ACCA exam. Well, that's good, isn't it? So that you will be hopefully peaking for both exams at the same time. Look on the positive. Nervous. I prefer to study in workspace library. Yeah, unfortunately, you might not have a choice. Not sure what to focus on. Too many distractions. Scared of failing. 48 and 49 marks is scary. Don't worry about failing. If you do whatever. So thank you. I don't know what to study for since SBL is so wide. Well, the first thing about SBL, it's not a technical exam. So what I want to do with regards to what many of you are talking about on procrastination and stuff like that is look at a few lessons we can learn from psychology. Okay. And I just want to spend a little bit of time learning from what psychologists have told us on how we can study better. So if we look at this, the first thing I want to talk about is procrastination. Yep, and that's probably the most important thing and the one that many of you were telling me in the chat box. So we're going to get that one sorted. And then we're going to have a look at the, I've just got my chat box over the screen, over the psychology of students and their likelihood to procrastinate. And then I'm going to give you some tips in how to turn things around. So I'm talking about this because a lot of lecturers don't talk about this. And I think this is really important. Otherwise, your study is not going to be very effective. So let's talk about procrastination and what it is. The ACCA, I've seen evidence from the ACCA that there's a lot of students who sit on courses for preparing for, say, SBL. Then they don't take their exam for maybe 12 months because they worry that they might fail. So they spend all that time building up their knowledge and then on a course, and they pay for a course, and then they don't sit the exam. And the main reason that happens is maybe a deeper psychological one. And that deeper psychological reason is sometimes referred to as procrastination, and it's postponing decisions or actions. So I'm going to look at why people don't have the confidence to take their exam. Yep. And I'm going to look at some techniques you can use. Yep. So if we think about what we need to do in order for us to overcome procrastination, I've looked at a lot of research and I've worked out what can we do. Well, first thing we need to do is get in touch with our self-control. And what our self-control does is it receives support from our motivation, which helps us get things done in a timely manner. But what happens, the research tells us that there are demotivators which get in the way and affect our motivation. And when these demotivators, otherwise known as motivational inhibitors, overcome our self-control, we don't do anything and we procrastinate. Yep. So what I want to first talk about are these motivational inhibitors, the factors that get in the way of us, taking the exam. So a motivational inhibitor would first of all be what's described as an abstract goal. Does anyone know what an abstract goal is? Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Lemon. Great. Yeah, goals that are not properly defined. Yeah, they're vague. I want to study harder. Yeah, it's much better if you set a goal. I want to study for 2 hours between 6 and 8 on a Tuesday, 1 hour between 6 and 7 on a Wednesday. Yep. Another factor that links to these abstract goals is that they're often unachievable. Yep. So yeah, we've just got to make sure that our goals are realistic. Okay. So we also think of rewards being too far off in the future. So what we've got to do, we've got to somehow bring the future to the present. Yep. We don't actually get any benefit from passing our exam, till when the results come out in January. And people have or the psychologists tell us, people have something called a bias for the present. And you prefer to engage in activities which reward short term over long term. Yep. And yeah, it's we've got to the point. I'll make a point on it in a moment, but that's a scientific reason. Indecisiveness. Well, people can't decide. Although you seem pretty clear, you're all entering the exam in December, and but I think the fact that we've got 4 exams a year has caused a bit of indecisiveness. The more options we have, often the harder we have to make a choice. Quite a few of you have said this one, and you're feeling overwhelmed. You just see the exam as too overwhelming. A lot of you said in the chat box. Eunice is asking me a question. May I know, will this be on demand? I'm not sure, Eunice, but please, if we can engage with the questions we're asking. We're talking about abstract goals. So just going back, we're talking about feeling overwhelmed. So an example here, if someone says you've got to clean the whole house, you probably won't do any cleaning. But if someone says, I want you to clean the kitchen on Monday, the bathroom on Tuesday, that action is much more likely to happen. So it's important to overcome feelings of being overwhelmed, that we break our tasks down into chunks that way. You don't like the task, you have a task aversion. Yep. We probably don't like taking exams. So we need to look at how to reframe taking exams and make it more attractive. People have a fear of failure. So that's going to, link to self-doubt. And, people say, no, it's not worth it and blah, blah, blah. Yep. The point is, if you believe something or you disbelieve something, it's true. And that's a famous quote from Henry Ford. So if you believe you could produce the first mass-produced motor car, well, you'll do it. If you think, oh, it's an impossible task, well, you won't. And so it's really important that we get our mindset in the right place. Yeah. And a lot of people don't have their mindset in the right place. And that's hopefully what I'm going to help you to do a little bit more today. And then the final thing is you're just not motivated. And lots of you said that you're not motivated. So that's fantastic that so many of you put in the chat box you were lacking motivation. And if you're lacking motivation, you're not really going to work very hard towards the task. So I think it's important we spend a bit of time channeling our thoughts. If I can get you to channel your thoughts about the positive outcomes of exam success, I think you will be a bit more motivated. Don't forget, you're in charge. Yep. You are the architect of your future. Yep. You're the one that is responsible for you passing this exam this December. Nobody else. It's you. All right. So remember that. Yep. Okay. So what do I want to talk about next? I want to talk about how we overcome these motivational inhibitors. Yep. So to overcome them, we need to have a strategy to get us to deal with procrastination. Yep. So what do we need to do? Well, to do this effectively, the first thing we need to do is set some goals. Yep. Which I'm sure is fairly obvious to you. You may then want to consider, why do you procrastinate? Yep. Yep. Once you've discovered why you procrastinate, we're going to talk about an action plan, and then we're going to implement that plan. Okay. So let's deal with each of these in turn. The first thing we need to do is we need to set some goals. And it's crucial when we make goals, we make those goals as clear as possible. Yep. If the goal is a bit vague, we're more likely to procrastinate. So as I said, study harder is too vague. Yep, we need to have 2 hours on a Tuesday, 1 hour on a Monday, etc. The goals that we set need to be achievable and meaningful. Yep, this means the goal is achievable if it's doable. Yep, and a goal is meaningful is if it you pass your exam, so what? Have you thought about that? So am I going to pass 2 exams in March, 2 exams in June, 2 exams in September, 2 exams in September? Well, good luck, but I think that might be a bit unrealistic. 1 exam passed a year, well, it might be achievable, not very meaningful. So there's no one set pace, but you need to decide on that. So get clarity and make sure your goals are achievable and that they're meaningful. Yep, we're okay so far. What's your problem? Okay. Well, first of all, I'd think is, when do you procrastinate? Yep. Do you do it at home? You don't do it in the library at the moment because you can't go, but if you were going, do you do it in the library? Do you struggle to finish off tasks, or do you struggle to get started? Which one is it? And then you've told me a lot of the answer to this one. How do you procrastinate? Well, a lot of you were saying social media. Yeah. Or 1 or 2 of you said YouTube. Or do you play video games? Or do you find small, unimportant tasks to get on with rather than study? And then, why do you procrastinate? And that goes back to those motivational inhibitors earlier. So sorry for the beginning. It's quite scientific, but I wanted to make it scientific so that you had some confidence in the information, because this is based on psychological research. So in summary, what you need to do is you need to reflect that when you sit down with the intention of studying, do you waste your time on the internet? And if you do, why do you do that? Is it because the topic's boring? Well, it might be, but why are you doing the topic? What's your motivation? Yeah, really important. We really need to reset our mind clock. So let's create a plan to deal with it. Yep, and what we need to do is, when we set a plan, we first of all need to focus on the following. And we need to focus on behaviors. So we need to break down tasks into much smaller ones. Yep, so think about how we say cleaning the house. We clean the kitchen on a Monday, clean the bathroom on a Tuesday. That makes achievement of the plans a lot easier. And also, we need to focus on the things we tell ourselves. This is called the cognitive side. Yeah, are we having the right conversations with ourselves, or are we saying to ourselves, it's not worth it because the exams are not going to happen? I mean, if you tell yourself that, you'll believe it, and that's just convincing yourself not to do anything. Yep. The cognitive thing is practiced by a lot of world famous sportsmen. They see themselves winning the gold medal. They see themselves putting that golf ball. They see themselves getting that free kick. Yeah, it's all linked with psychology. Yeah, as Henry Ford said, whether you believe it or you disbelieve it, it's true. So each technique is definitely going to help. Approaches I would suggest that you do. Well, the first thing, if we're like not sure what we do and we've got too much, struggling to get started, make it easy to get started. How do we make it easy to get started? Well, maybe when we go to bed, we have on our desk our book open at the chapter which we're going to study that day. Yeah, so we just get straight into it. We need to make it easier to keep going. So if you're on social media, why is your phone even turned on? There are apps you can get to turn these things off. I don't know, in KL, does anyone have an app and turns their phone off? Can anyone suggest things that are good to get us out of social media? If your phone is on silent mode or out of sight or even using an app, that will help us. So lots of you were saying to me, social media. Anyone help me here? Because I know you use slightly different apps. Turn off notifications. I do that, Kai, yeah, but there are apps I think you can get which just deaden it. But turn off notifications, uninstall social media. Well, maybe you might have to do that. Turn off the phone, give it to someone else. Yeah, but self-control is hard, you know, and I'm just trying to make it easy. Delete the account. Well, we can't completely delete. That's a bit extreme. I want it to be realistic. Yep. So one, self-control, but we need to build up our self-control. Farah says it works for her. Okay. So I want to make it easier to keep going, but I also want to make it harder to avoid working. Yep. So you need to get rid of distractions on your desk. You need to turn your email off, turn your notifications off. Yeah, maybe study away from your friends. We probably don't have that option in lockdown. But that's some things I want you to do. Do you have a study timetable and do you prioritize your tasks? Yeah, there's lots of things going on. As you said, some of us have got kids, we've got work priorities, but we also need to look after number one. And so that we become overwhelmed, or we often become overwhelmed because we don't know where to start. So there's something called Ivy Lee method, IVYLEE. And basically that involves preparing a to-do list. So at the end of the previous day, and you're writing down a list of 6 tasks that you're going to complete tomorrow. And you're going to rank those in order of importance. Yep. So that's really important that we use that IV. So do you do that? So before you go to bed, these are 6 things I'm going to study tomorrow. Anyway, it's something to think about. When are you most productive? Only you will know this. So different people are productive at different times of the day. Some are morning people, some are evening people, some are good after food, some are good before food. And you need to work out when you're most productive and least productive. And the other thing that we need to try to do is get ourselves into some form of routine. Yeah, that makes it a habit. Yeah, so it's starting to get to the business end of the season, as Alex Ferguson used to say. And if we can make things a habit, it's good at stopping procrastination. Yep. That routine you establish is also reflective of when you're most productive. And yeah, it also, well, it helps you get things done. Yep. The other routine I would suggest is important is your sleep. So if you've got work to do, you go to bed at the same time, you get up at the same time. If you do that, the benefit that comes from it is habits don't need motivation, you just do them. So if you have not already done so, work out when you are effective studying and when you're not. And you need to build your study timetable at those times. Yeah. When are you in your ultimate state of flow? And that's when we're completely in the zone and performing at our most productive. Yep. When we're in that state, we don't procrastinate. Yep. So what is it that gives those conditions? Is it the room? Is it the time? Do we burn some candles? I don't know. The other thing that you should be thinking of doing when studying, so midnight's good for her. Okay, yep, fine. Setting deadlines. Well, deadlines make you commit, and they're really useful motivator, and they avoid procrastination. So, yeah, those deadlines need to be specific, though. A certain time. I see some people do study timetables, and they just kind of, well, they just say we need to do it tomorrow. They need to be specific. Certain time. They should be realistic. Yep. And yeah, that's what you need to do. Also, if you set a deadline, it's going to maybe make you commit to doing things rather than waste to the last possible minute. Yeah. Also, these deadlines consist of you breaking things into manageable chunks. So all you need to do is just achieve this and then achieve this and then achieve this and achieve this. You're much less likely to be overwhelmed if you approach it that way. If you approach it in a way that you've got too much to do, it's like, oh, I've got too much. Time management techniques. There's something called the Pomodoro technique, which again, Pomodoro. There's lots of apps available on the phone, and they break down your study into, well, they begin with 25-minute batches. Again, this is proven to work. So focus for 25 minutes, you then have a break. Focus for 25 minutes, you have a break. Focus for 25 minutes, you have a break. Focus, you have a break. And then you have a longer break, and it's all controlled by an app. So when you have to focus in 25 minutes, you don't have time to go on social media because you've only got 25 minutes. Yep. There's just something coming through as a bit of reassurance here. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. Also, so look for the Pomodoro and reward yourself. Yep. People procrastinate, as I've said, because the reward is too far off. People favor rewards in the short term. Yep. So maybe do that to yourself. If you finish these 2 sections, you're going to get a bit of chocolate. Yep. Also, create a target each day. This is used in addiction therapy where you create chains. So you've got to do, 3 hours every day, or do 2 questions, or you're not going to go on social media for 5 hours every day. And suddenly you've now done 11 days without going on social media for 5 hours. That is a chain created. Yep. And yeah, it's the same thing that drug addicts and alcohol addicts use to stay clean. The other thing that rewards you is a 0 day of no study. You do absolutely nothing. But that's linked to the fact that you're going to do quite a lot on other days. So lots and lots of psychology here for you. The other thing, how do you get your energy levels at the right pace? So what do you do? Some people think about the food they eat. Some people play energizing music, but you get your energy. Well, hey, this is an opportunity for me to pass my SBL exam. Let's get on with it. Where do you work? Because again, boom, once I sit at this desk, I'm studying. So we study in the same place every day. Yeah, if we're not distracted, the place where we study must be fairly distraction free. It must be removed of all distractions, phone, email. Yeah. So there are a few things I have talked about, which I thought were important to start off with, because you've all said to me, you're worried, you're not studying, you're on social media. And I just wondered, does anyone have anything that they use who are here today that helps you focus? Yep. And maybe you can share that with us, because we're all wanting to pass this exam. So yeah, what do you do that helps you maintain focus? Music. Okay, so Lemon says music. Music's good, but the thing with music is I don't think we should have music with words, because that can be quite distraction. I think the best music, it's classical music, a specific type called Baroque music. I think that's got something, it's got so many beats a minute, Baroque. And as a result, it relaxes our brain. So music is a good thing. And a lot of people say that. Brenda, vitamin intake. Okay, well done, Brenda. Diet and exercise, I'll talk about in a moment. We've just got to be a bit careful with our diet and exercise. I'm going to say something about that, Brenda. So thank you. Lemons, pure music. Give yourself breaks, yes, because what the breaks do ye is they focus your attention when you're actually studying. Well, Interesting Cheers says they can focus us while listening to music. Favorite singer. Most of the psychologists say having words is not good. Make it a routine. It's a bit like training, Shabuddin. So think about, training. You just get up and do that run at 6 o'clock or whenever you do it. Casey, a conducive environment. So, look at the picture there on the screen. It's clutter free. Yeah. We put our phone away. We give someone our phone and say, look, give me that back in 5 hours time. Yep. Any others? Okay, just Ryan has answered that these enrichment centers sessions will be recorded. Yeah, so you will be able to look it on catch up, but it's great that you're here. Okay, Huda, I'm a big fan. Oh, here we go. We've got Daniel, stacking one habit that you wish to realize with another habit you already do. Fantastic. That is a great bit of advice, Daniel. That is perfect. That's kind of how memory champions work, and they place things they want to memorize in rooms in the house because your brain already remembers which rooms you have in your house. And if you add something to it, it helps. So well done, Daniel. You're obviously well versed in some of these techniques. Regular exercise, completely agree. Encouragement from a friend, even I don't know whether you're allowed to do a study buddy in lockdown in Malaysia, but that's useful. Casey, thank you. I'm going to talk about food in a moment. Working out, exercise, definitely. Online study group. Well, do you want to tell us more about that, Lemon? How does that work? You do that with your friends, do you? Or do you do that? Does some kind of college organize it for you? Okay, an open video call. All right. Okay. Let me just add a couple. So we've talked about thinking about our work environment. As many of you said, I'm also a big fan of exercise and diet. Yep. If you're tired, you're more likely to procrastinate. So the first thing I think we need to consider is how much sleep are we getting? Okay, hydration affects our ability to study. So make sure you're hydrated. That's going to affect concentration. And also, when you talked about vitamins, I hope we're not drinking lots of sports drinks because they are there to take after we've expended a lot of excess energy on sport. Yep. What they will do otherwise, they give you a big sugar rush, so they take you up and boom, slam you right down. So we need to have more slow release. Yep. If we're stressed, we produce something called cortisol, which is the stress chemical. And actually, the only way to get rid of a stress chemical is exercise. Yeah, because that creates endorphins, and endorphins counterbalance this cortisol. So exercise and diet, and put them in the diary to make sure you do them. So there's a time when you're going to do it. There's no argument. Punish yourself. Oh, Shabuddin. You like to punish yourself, do you? Uh, well, okay. I think positive reinforcement is always better than punishment, but whatever works for you. Thank you for that. I think you just don't get the reward if that's a punishment. What are you talking about? Uh, Flagellation and sticking pins in yourself for not doing your study? Uh, I think that's a bit harsh. I can't be recommending that. Yeah, try to. Uh, yeah, I didn't think you meant that. But no reward. Exactly. Exactly. Yes, exactly. So good. So I just wanted to begin with the fact that we are maybe a little bit lacking focus, lacking motivation, and we might be wondering, what can we do? So let me just, when are we going to implement these things? Well, I think we're going to start today, aren't we? Yep. And, you know, we're going to make this part of our routine. We're going to start today. We're going to work out when we are productive and when we're not. We're going to make it manageable by breaking it down into manageable chunks. To do that, I really am a big fan of creating a timetable of living. So do you have a timetable of living which is broken down into steps? Yeah. And what we mean by that is there's time when you exercise, there's time when you work, there's time with the kids, but there's also a bit of time in there to do some studying. And people say, oh, I haven't got time. We'll get up an hour earlier every day. If you want it, you will achieve it. Yep. I haven't really talked about if you want it, you will achieve it, but why you want it, we'll maybe mention a little bit about that. If we're stressed, there's a lot of mindfulness apps. There's one called Headspace, which you can get free with Spotify. So have a look about that. Think about your diet and exercise. Yep. Um, Having a buddy to chat things through is also really useful. So make sure we do that. So as a starter, um, you know, you may not have been expecting that, but these behaviors are key to getting us into the right place. The other thing, I've written some articles, I'll talk about them maybe a little later. You can find, if you put my name into ACCA Student Accountant, and I think it's really important that we're motivated, because some of you weren't that motivated, that what is this exam going to bring to us? And it's not, I want to be an accountant. You really need to channel where it's taking you. Yeah, because hopefully it's going to take you to a good place. Yep. But you need to channel, you pass this exam, you qualify as an accountant, and you can buy a shiny red car, or, you know, you can get the dream job you want, you can travel, you know, there's all kinds of things people are motivated by, but you really need to channel that. You should read the Rocky story. So Rocky the boxer is the film Rocky 1 in particular is a true story, and it's very motivational about Sylvester Stallone, you know, and writing that book Rocky. It's amazing. So yeah, get some motivation. So that's a starter. I'm now going to look at SBL in a bit of detail, but if we do not build our SBL on firm foundation stones, we're in trouble. So I've got a few. Farah says, love creating timetables. I find it rather difficult to commit to them. Okay, well, maybe what you put down is unrealistic. Break it down into half hours, Farah. Use that app I mentioned, which was Pomodoro. Asus is completely not listening and wants to do something else, but we'll answer the question. I'm going to apply for computer-based exam and don't know which option to choose. I'm not sure either. That's a question for Ryan Asus. He'll answer it for you. So I'm not sure about all those different options. My point on computer-based exams for you would be that you know, some people take computer-based exams having not been on the platform. The ACCA has lots of information on their website. There is practice areas you can go on and get used to the familiarity of the platform. Oh, I can't believe some students don't do that. It's a bit like taking a driving test and not getting in a car before the test. So make sure that happens. Yeah. Um, any other questions on the whole motivation thing? what I've done on these sessions, I've created about 2 1-hour-ish sessions with the opportunity for questions. They are recorded. We've been going an hour. I'm going to maybe give you 5 minutes maybe for a quick stand up and shake around comfort break. So it's 27 on my phone. So if we could be back at 32, that would be fantastic. I will be here looking at your questions, but I'm not going to continue to the next session for another 5 minutes. So if you need to just get up, move around. I'm not sure about your question, but Ryan will get back to you. But I'm here answering questions, anyone who has. So if you've popped out and have come in and thinking, why has it stopped? We're just going to start again at 32. I'm just going to give people a couple of minutes to get a cup of tea, get something to eat. In fact, I'm just going to top up my tea. So I'll be 1 minute. I'll be straight back. Hi, mate. Okay, that's 5 minutes, and thanks for getting back. No questions. What if you've just come back? So nothing to remind you of. So what I want to talk about in this second session is talk a little bit more about strategic business leader, the exam format, why it's different and what you need to recognize. Why do people fail SBL? And what do you need to do in the next few weeks? So that's what we're going to do in the second half. And then tomorrow, I'm going to talk a bit more about exam technique, and I'm actually going to look at some questions and kind of do it with you watching me so you understand how my brain works. Yep. And I want your brain to work the same way. So first thing I want to just check on is the resources which you're using to take this exam. So as well as making sure our minds are in the right place, it's really important that the time given over to study is effective. And to make sure it's effective, it's important that we are referring to the correct resources. Yep. So I've got a poll which I would like you to complete. Yep. So there's going to be a poll. Ryan is going to put a poll up on your screen with regards to how are you preparing? So which resources are you using to prepare? An approved ACCA course, self-study, non-approved ACCA course, or you're not sure? Do you even know that there is a difference between an approved and a non-approved ACCA course? So let's have a look. What have we got? You're on an approved ACCA course. The rest of you are on self-study. The others aren't sure. Okay, you can find out who is approved and who isn't approved. So thank you for that. Most of us are on an ACCA approved course. Hopefully you know it's approved. So just to make sure that you are appreciative, there are only two publishers of books that the ACCA recommends, and that is Kaplan and BPP. All these people who go online on YouTube saying they're experts, well, the only people who are experts on YouTube are the ACCA. Everyone else is often just trying to sell advertising around so-called ACCA advice. So that's why it's good to be on here. I'm not here just giving my opinion. I'm here because I've been asked to come here by the ACCA. It's not costing you any money. We're not selling advertising around this. It's for you to help you pass the exam. Yep. So that's the whole point of this. Um, so yeah, that in terms of resources, make sure that you're looking at the official notes of BPP or Kaplan because the other ones haven't been reviewed. So let's have a think about getting ready to pass, making sure that we're building this on a proper set of resources. So we've talked about those resources in terms of what we should be maybe looking at. Do you have, oh, I've got a, okay, well, there's another question for Asa, sorry, I thought it was for me. So when we're getting ready to pass, we probably have a study text. Yep. If you've got a study text, get an official one. That's a Kaplan or a BPP one. But I would say that these study texts can be quite large. So hopefully you've created your own notes from some of those texts. It's also really important that you have attempted past examination questions. And as well as a study text, there's an examination kit, which has lots of past questions in it and sometimes has guidance by tutors. There's also past questions if you, for whatever reason, don't have a BPP. I mean, my main point is I would be very careful, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are a few things that I find amazing people refer to that are free and on the internet, but actually the ACCA don't approve them because some of the information which they contain is actually harmful rather than helpful. So if you can't afford or can't get access to a BPP or a Kaplan text, go on the ACCA website. Yeah, everything on the ACCA website has been sanctioned by the ACCA. The other thing that you must do when getting ready to pass is you must make sure that you have logged on to the CBE website and have access to those resources available there. The blank space, that's had loads of investment in that area. And the ACCA know there's data that knows whether you've been on or not. And it's very apparent to the ACCA that not enough of you have gone on there and practiced things. Yeah, that's where your exam is going to happen for a lot of you. So yeah, just make sure you get familiarity with that. Let's have a quick chat then about SBL and talk about what does the examining team have said about it. So I think it's important for me to explain to you what SBL is and why it's been set, because if you understand that, that will hopefully help you in your presentation a little bit more. So we're going to have a look at the exam and talking about that it's a substantial integrated exams. And what we're asked to do is we're talking about things in the context of strategic leadership. Yep. So we need to think about how a strategic leader would apply their knowledge. Yep. So you might have great knowledge of Purcell, but if you just regurgitate Purcell, that would be a bit weird in a workplace context. So the exam is very much linked to the workplace. Yep. And if you just regurgitate lots of academic theory, you're not going to get many, if any, marks. Okay, please be clear on that. And sometimes we have to use opinion, even common sense. Yep. So the models are useful, and I will show you next time how I might use a model, but I have them in the background to help me plan my answer. I don't reveal them in my actual answer. Yep. The exam, it's a practical exam. Okay. It's preparing you for what will be needed in the workplace in the future. Yeah. So you're going to be involved in role play. Most importantly, you're going to have to demonstrate how you would behave in the actual workplace. That's what this exam is about. Yeah, it's going to help you become or prepare for being a strategic leader, but it is not an exam to regurgitate lots of technical theory. There are things we need to appreciate, and I've got a list of the syllabus areas here, and we need to understand things about leadership and the key things, but from a top level, not a detailed. You need to demonstrate awareness of governance and what good governance looks like, how we plan strategy, an appreciation of risk. And also we should be familiar and aware of the latest advancements in technology and data analytics. So there's there's articles on the ACCA website talking about big data, talking about blockchain, talking about what data analytics is. That's what you need to know. You need to know about what good control looks like and what audit is there to do. You need to appreciate not doing the calculations, but interpreting and sometimes being skeptical on financial figures. And then finally, we need to appreciate about performance management. Yep, and change management as well. So that's the syllabus, and that would be broken down in official texts for you. When answering questions, though, it's important that we look at the question through the lens of the professional skills marks. So there again are articles on the official ACCA website, which you can look at, but we need to look at communication, commercial acumen, analysis, skepticism, and evaluation. Yep. I must be very clear, though, Those of us who treat this exam like a technical exam are actually wrong. It is not a technical exam. All right. It's a practical exam where you apply knowledge, you connect knowledge together. Okay. So if you regurgitate 5 forces for me in an answer, you're not going to get many marks. You're not going to get any probably. But if you use 5 forces as the catalyst for you interpreting what's going on in the competitive environment of a particular business, well, that's how to do it. All right. Does anyone have any questions on what I've said there? Any queries? Thank you, Farah. Okay, if you don't, I mean, don't forget, I'm here for you. If you are here and you are live, or are you here, but you're checking a YouTube video out at the same time? Hey, it's up to you. It's your life. But I'm kind of a person who will guarantee you a pass, and I can help you. So take advantage of our time together. So I've got a question from City. Even so, we do have to have basic technical knowledge for the application. I would say it very much helps. It gets your brain in the right order, City, but a well-experienced business person might not use a framework. I'd say frameworks are used. The way I use technical frameworks is they are the secret tools of a strategy consultant. Okay, so when a strategy consultant is writing a report for a client, often the structure of that report is inspired by some academic theory, but they never mention the academic theory. But as a person who is familiar with academic theory, I can see that their arguments were structured through Purcell or 5 forces, but they never mention Purcell or 5 forces. Amira has no work experience. How do I tackle questions in a practical way? Well, you should be commercially curious, Amira, about what companies are doing and seeing how real companies in real life are tackling things. Don't be too hard on yourself about, not working. I mean, not if any students, not many, if any students would have strategic level experience, even if they are working. So it's important that we look at companies and ask why are they doing that. Mahfouz says, when mentioned that we can use a model as a catalyst, can I mention them in the introduction? Well, I would say this to you, Mahfouz. As I said, it's a workplace-based exam. So you're at work and you say at work, according to Michael Porter's 5 forces, everyone's going to say, oh, sorry, I don't know Michael Porter. Which department does Michael Porter work in? I've not met him. You just wouldn't do it in the workplace, would you? So no, it makes you look unprofessional. So thank you for your question, but no. Yep, questions are of a practical, work-based nature. They're not academic. John is saying, I still find the ratio MPV or IRR a problem. Well, the point about ratios is you won't be asked to calculate them. You will be given them, John, but you need to understand them. So you need to understand what MPV is, and you need to be skeptical about it. So sometimes the cost of capital used and some of the estimates are, well, they're big guesses, and you don't, just because it comes from a complicated calculation, a specific answer, you are mature enough to know that, well, okay, some of these were a bit of a guesstimate. Yeah, so that's important. But you will not be asked to, I mean, you've proven that in earlier stages. You're not going to be asked to work these things out. You will be given them. Okay, and you should appreciate that. Why do we do IRR? Well, IRR is there sometimes to help us. MPV just gives us a figure. It doesn't give us any indication of risk. So if we have investments of different sizes, IRR can be used to help discriminate which one might be better.
Brenda has said, we are not very possible to memorize a full definition of the framework. I don't know why you would want to. Could it be possible we straight to the point? Well, I think a framework is useful for maximizing your marks, Brenda. Yeah. So if you imagine you go through all of Purcell and there's bits in between to talk about, that's going to give you more things to say. So the frameworks are good for organizing your mind. And I'll show you when we talk about this tomorrow about mark focus and stuff. But yeah. How do I maximize the professional mark? Well, you need to have a look. There are some articles, Ada, on the ACCA website, but you need to have, for example, if you are asked to do slides and the professional marks are for communication skills, you would get no marks at all. You would lose all of the professional marks. I think you need to understand. So if it says skepticism, you probe, you question, you challenge. Yeah, if it says evaluation, you're giving both sides to the story. Analysis, you're bringing all the information from all the exhibits in. Yeah. Well, Noah has a problem in applying skepticism. The tip would be similar to the MPV. You know, you're given an MPV. Okay, great. It's a mathematical calculation, but you know, how are you predicting the cost of capital? How do you know that for certain? Maybe do some sensitivity analysis on that percentage chosen. It only has to be a cost of capital difference of 2%, and the thing goes absolutely, you know, massively negative. Comments like that, you are helping management make decisions. Skepticism, you don't take things at face value. You question, you challenge. Yeah, if you look at specimen paper 2, where it talks about the rail company and it talks about the savings, they kind of extrapolate these savings across the whole of the UK, which some might say, not sure about that. Oh, lots of great questions. Shabardine, how do we decide on how points needed? Well, we look at the marks. We're driven by the marks. So I'd be breaking it down into no more than 1 or 2 points. That would be realistic. I mean, it gives you the marks and you just need, so if it's 10 marks and it's asking us to assess the environment, I think of Purcell and I try to get over half marks and I won't necessarily use all of Purcell and I won't necessarily mention Purcell, but it will be there to help me structure my marks. What question is, I mean, to be honest, Noor, the thing that students struggle most with, I'll talk about it a little later, but it's timing and it's reading the question. It's not the actual question, it's the timing. Kwai says, what would be the consequence if we didn't present our answer in a required format? Well, it depends on what the professional skills marks are for, but if your boss asks you for a cup of tea and you bring him a can of Coke, that's not what your boss asked for. So here we're working in the workplace, doesn't look good. I ask you for some slides and you don't give me slides. So we're all sitting down waiting for a slide presentation. And if the professional skills marks are for communication, well, you're going to lose them. Okay. So if it was for other things, you still would get penalized if you don't follow the format. You will not be able to score all professional skills marks. And if you're not familiar, I would look at past exam questions, and it's very, very clear on whether you get full professional skills marks, kind of, or not at all. Have a look in the ACCA answers. Adrian, what's your view if I don't mention any models, even its classifications? Well, you wouldn't do that in the workplace, Adrian. So there has been, and there was a question asking about a model in specimen 1, and there was one question in all the examinations that have been sat, but the guidance from the ACCA, official kind of, because there's the examiner is an employee of the ACCA, and then there's the full-time examining team. It's supposed to be workplace related. We don't talk about models and frameworks in the workplace. We use them to help structure our thoughts, but we don't mention them. So Adrian says, Even no definitions. It's not. There's no marks for that. You're just wasting your time. Yeah. So the model helps you develop a framework, but you don't mention it. When there's a spreadsheet, how to know what the assumptions made is, well, you don't know that, but that's real life. You just have to question it and say, look, this is something new. We've never done it before, yet you seem to have fairly certain cash flow predictions. Where do you get those from? I don't accept it. Is it acceptable for us to blank a few rows before the next paragraph? It is, but if you're doing a computer-based exam, that's where you can just insert. So you can use word processing functionality. Yeah, so that's what I do there. Crystal, what does it mean? You mentioned SBL is not a technical exam. As I know, well, good point. It says 80 marks and 20 professional marks. What I mean is there are no marks for technical definitions. It is an applied exam, not a technical exam. Whereas some of your earlier exams award you marks for regurgitation of learned facts. You don't get any marks for that on SBL. You get marks for application of those facts. I'm having difficulty to apply the figures. Well, you just need to look at the figures from the perspective of kind of gearing. And if the gearing was high, you would struggle to get maybe more debt raised, that kind of thing. Yep. May I know how to get the recording? It will be sent to you. How to ensure the tone is correct? Yeah. Well, you need to think about who you're talking to. What tone do you use, Aisha, when talking to different people? Just think about what you do in real life. Ada wants to know how to increase understanding of the question requirements. Sometimes you're lost and can't understand. Okay, what we would do when we see an exam, we look at the introduction, we look at the requirements, and then for each of the exhibits, we might make a note on each exhibit with regards to which requirement or task this exhibit most relates to. Yeah. Is it advisable to skip performance measurements question and focus? Well, there isn't any. I mean, John, you've misunderstood. There are no theoretical questions in the exam. Yep, there are no theoretical questions in the exam. It is a practical workplace related exam. Yep, that's what it is. It's not a technical exam. If I just very quickly go back, if you missed this slide, here we go. This is from the examining team. Yep, it's an integrated exam in the context of strategic leadership. It's a workplace with application in that context. It's practical, it's role play. It is not a technical exam. Yep, so please make sure we are very, very clear on that. There's so much information there is, Daniel. Well, that's real life. We have to actually see through all that information and pick out the salient points. That's what you have to do in a workplace. That's what it's developing your brain to do. Yep. If we answer the question, but they aren't in sequential order, no, you wouldn't lose marks, but that wouldn't be a good idea, Hannah. If you look at past exams, and I'm familiar with every single exam in detail, there's often a journey. So part one is then, having done what we've said in part one, it moves into part two. And then question three, now we've done that, boom. So it's, it's not a technical exam, it's a journey, and really 1, 2, 3 normally have to be answered in sequential order because that's how they set. I don't know why you're answering question 4 first, Hannah, but there's no penalty for that. You're not exactly helping the markers, but I'm sure they can work it out. Do we need to mention which models we're using? Casey, no. Can I keep saying no? It's not a technical exam. Yeah, I completely agree. In specimen paper 1, question 1A, I was involved with developing the training for SBL 2.5 years before the exam actually came out. And in specimen 1 on DCS, it did talk about using a model on analysis in question 1A. You're completely correct. That was the very first specimen paper. And this is what I said, if you listen to this on record, you can hear me say this 10 minutes ago. That did ask for a model, but it was felt by everybody that is probably not how it would be in the workplace. So you will see no reference to it in specimen 2. You will see no reference to it in subsequent exams, apart from in one exam on one little question, which I think was a bit of an oversight. These are great, all these questions. Liu said they spent 1.5 hours to read the questions and exhibits. Any tips to read faster? Yes, regular digestion and reading of business English. Business English is different to normal English. If you're reading some economic journals or business journals, your reading speed will massively improve. How many minutes do you recommend we should? Well, again, you have to play to your own strengths, Noor, but I would say about 40 minutes reading and planning. It leaves me 200 minutes. I divide 200 minutes by 80 marks because obviously the professional skills marks take no time to acquire. So that gives me 200 divided by 80, 2.5 minutes per mark. And I'll show you that tomorrow. Can you make hypothetical assumptions within reason? Could you explain what exactly we should know from budgeting, standard costing, and variance analysis? Well, you should know what it is, Benjamin, but that is, I don't know why you're bringing that in. Standard costing, again, you should appreciate that. How is a standard costed made up? It's often based on historic information that might not be relevant and maybe activity-based costing would be a more appropriate, things like that, but you don't need to know the fine detail of it. Yeah. City, let's say I happen to have more ideas for the first question after answering all questions. Well, you're very lucky if that's the case. If you've got strict time management, that would not be the case. So do I add up the points? I mean, City, there's marks for a question. You need to make sure you get over half, and you need to make sure you do that on the whole exam. That's how we approach it. Hopefully that helps. Isla noted we don't have to mention the model. You mentioned that the question used an appropriate model. Yeah, but that's an example. Like your exam's not going to include it, Alia. Booby, may I ask if you teach us how to answer specimen 1? I'll do that next time, Booby. Yeah. Diana, when answering, do you suggest on planning an answer? Yes, if you're doing a computer-based exam, often you can kind of plan by putting down your thoughts and then just insert a line and use that as a subheading, insert a line. If you're doing a paper-based exam, which maybe some of you are, I'm not sure many people are, but yes, a plan is, you definitely you have to do a plan. Mohammed says, what kind of business article? It's up to you, really. I mean, whatever. I don't want to tell you to read something because you might find that boring, but I would encourage you to be commercially curious. Look at BBC Business News. That's a website. It's free. Have a look why people are doing it. Economist is another good one. I think there's Malaysian Business is another one I've read. X from X, is that your name, or are you a spy? Or I'm not sure. X, let me have a look. From X, X says, I've seen the past papers. Generally, one question will involve 1 to 3 exhibits. Well, no, there's up to 6 exhibits in every exam, so you need to review those exams again. A question might involve you looking at all the exhibits. Normally, it's focused on just one of those exhibits, and that's why I recommend you, in your initial 40 minutes, maybe link the exhibits to the tasks. Brenda says, it has been a problem for me for quite some time when I'm practicing questions like how we understand the point we describe from the scenario. Which point would the examiner credit us for? Well, I think you need to look at examiner reports maybe to help you there, Brenda. Can you give any guidance to plan for remote exam? you're going to have to give me a bit more information their way. When you say plan, I mean, whether it's a remote exam, you're just going to have to, I personally wouldn't be putting my plan in my scratch pad, because your scratch pad doesn't get submitted. So I know on the CBE platform there's a scratch pad, but I wouldn't use that. I would be doing my planning in the main word processing area, and maybe even just title it up plan and then copy and paste those bits into my answer. Hopefully that helps. Great. There's lots of questions there. We need to get on though, so I'll come back to some at the end, but thank you. Crystal says, this is a weakness as I try. Well, Crystal, it's not a weakness. The CBE method is how everyone in the workplace behaves. And what the ACCA found from industry was a lot of students were qualifying and they couldn't use word processing and spreadsheet functionality. So I wouldn't say it's a weakness. It's a practical reason for it being done. Yep. It's how it is in the workplace. What's practical and time consuming is me employing a qualified accountant who can't use word processing and a spreadsheet, and industry is annoyed at it. So the ACCA has to have its students to be credible. So, you know, can I raise it with the ACCA? Industry, who pay the wages of accountants qualifying for the ACCA, has raised the fact that we cannot have qualified accountants that have no idea how to use spreadsheets and word processing functionality. So that's why it's done. Yeah, it's okay to Kai's doing paper-based. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'll be talking about that next time, about drafting answers, Casey. Yeah, fair enough, Crystal. You make a good point. You have two screens to handle. You don't, but you've got to get on with it. I don't have two screens, so you're very lucky, Crystal. You've just got, you know, that's how it is, and we've got to get on with it. But it has been done that way because people are not really useful. Active reading. You feel sleepy, Alia? Well, you need to be focused. You need to think about diet and exercise and all those things we said in the first half. Right, I'm going to just move on. The exam format and style, I think you probably know. It's a 4-hour exam. It's 240 minutes. Yep. There's 100 marks, 80 of them for technical content, 20 for professional. You only need 50 to pass. It's really important that you answer all of the question. There's a lot to read, 12 plus pages. They're all based on the same scenario. And yeah, it's an applied exam, as we've said. Tools you're going to be asked to kind of be familiar with. You're going to have all the things that you would have to be familiar with in the workplace, if I'm honest. So letters, emails, reports, presentational slides. They even mentioned a heat map, didn't they? Briefing notes, press article. Yep, and anything really that would come into the workplace is what I'd say. So be familiar with those things. Tools that the exhibits often reflect, and you might be asked to do as well: meeting minutes, website homepage, a risk register. Often you get newspaper articles and spreadsheets. You not often have to work the numbers too much, but you know you can copy and paste those into the answer response area. Spreadsheets, industry articles, a chairman's statement. They're all likely suspects. A quick one on professional skills marks. They're going to be tested in every exam. And someone said to me, how do I get this? Well, you need to look at what each skill is about. What are the discrete aspects? And you need to look at the marking grid where it looks at not at all, not so well, or quite well, or very well. Yep. So these professional skills marks are really important, and they are not mutually exclusive. A lot of people think I'm not going to get the professional skills marks. I'm going to look at the meaning of each skill in a moment. So, but they do complement the technical content marks. If you think about being skeptical in how you structure your answer, very often you get higher technical marks as well as all the professional skills marks. Booby says, can I show you each of the formats or examples? Well, Booby, all I can say there is that, you know, if I worked for Petronas, if I worked for Malaysian Airlines, if I worked for, you know, one of the telecoms, Malaysian Telecom, the way I write a report wouldn't be exactly the same. Yep. So you know, don't get too hooked up on being perfect in your format, but acknowledge the format. Yep. So it's you just need to be comfortable what a slide looks like. You need to be comfortable. I haven't got, I mean, I haven't got examples, Booby, of those formats, but you have an absolute ton of past exam papers that have formats which could be used, but your answer doesn't have to be exactly like that, but you know, it has to be along those lines. So as I say, Petronas and Malaysian Airlines would do reports slightly different. Who's right? Well, they're both right. But if you didn't know, you didn't do to from date, that wouldn't be a report, would it? Could I, yeah, what distinguishes between answer scoring quite well? Well, what you need to be familiar with here, Sue, is you really need to look. I'm not sure I put them in this. Yeah, you need to have a look at some past exam. I don't want to jump out of this slide, but if you look at the answers on past papers, it goes into lots of detail on the subtle differences between not at all, not so well, quite well, and very well. So there's lots of detail on that in the actual answers. So you need to have a look at that, Sue. So professional skills are for these areas, as I mentioned. I'd say there's a discrete little thing on each that I would try to remember. So if someone said skepticism to me, what would I think? I would think probe, question, challenge. Commercial acumen. I'm thinking like a business person. So, you know, commercial acumen refers to, would that make business sense? Would it make business sense to put £20,000 alloy wheels on your £2,000 Proton Saga? I don't think so. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add value. But you might put £20,000 wheels on your Bugatti. Yep. So use judgment, show insight, analysis, you investigate, you consider all of the information, you inform, persuade, clarify, and use the correct format. And on evaluation, you're, you know, looking at both sides, you're assessing and reviewing stuff. Yeah. So that's important. What else? Well, a lot of you, it's interesting in your questions, and hopefully I'm changing your mindset, which is, you know, great that we're on this webinar. But a few of you, I think, are not completely clear on the difference between strategic business leader and other ACCA exams. And you seem to be, you know, using a mindset which is more appropriate to other ACCA exams. So let me talk about the key difference. As I've said already, the key difference is, I mean, well, first of all, a lot of people say it's 4 hours, and it's very long. I would say it is a 3-hour exam, which you have 4 hours to do. Yeah, it's a 3-hour exam, which you have 4 hours to do. The ACCA do not intend time to be a problem for you. Yeah, but the key difference is the rationale. And this is linked to something that's called Bloom's taxonomy, and we'll talk about it in a moment. But technical knowledge and application in a leadership context, in a workplace context. Yep. And that's different. Yep. The technical content of SBL is no more difficult. Okay, but you need to integrate that knowledge and show professionalism. Yeah, so there is a bit of a difference. So the challenge a lot of students have is, how do I apply technical knowledge as a leader? Yeah. And some of you worried about workplace experience. Well, you know, if you're looking at what leaders are doing by reading some business journals, that's going to help. Okay. So the difference is a practical exam. It's not for you to demonstrate technical knowledge by regurgitating lots of theory. The theory merely helps us explain and understand things, and we use that theory as a framework. Okay, so let me talk about why people fail SBL. Yep, and I know quite a lot about this. Yep, and the reason people fail SBL are pretty much the same every time. And the first one I would suggest is time management. Yep. Second one people fail is ineffective reading and planning. The third reason people fail is poor business writing skills, and they fail to look at professional skills marks. Okay. Time management is a tragic reason for failing, but many students do. Yep. What you need to remember is you need to get over 50 on all of the questions. If you get over 50 on all of the questions, you will definitely pass. However, to get over 50% on all of the questions, you need to answer all of the questions. And sadly, what a lot of students do is they only answer 3/4 of the questions. So they get 50% of 75, which is 38%. It's a fail. Yep. You need to get 50% of 100, and then you will pass. And in order for that to happen, you need to be really, really, really strict on your time management. So if we're looking at time management, what we're looking at, well, you must have a strict budget. In the same way you have a strict budget for your study, you have a strict budget for your time management. As I've said to you, you've got 240 minutes, 4 times 60, 240. I would say 40 minutes. Some people might do 60, so we need to adjust this like maths accordingly. That leaves me, if I do 40 with 200, I divide it by 80 because there's no time taken to get professionals, and that gives me 2.5 minutes per mark. My advice is to treat it like a project management exercise. It is a project management exercise in mark acquisition. So this question has got 8 marks. 8 marks, 2.5 times 8 is 20 minutes. Okay, let's try and get at least 5 points. So bit of a plan, then subheading, explain, subheading, explain. Do that at least 5 times. You get 5 out of 8, and that's a pass. Okay, that's what we do. It's not tell me a story. It's about create an answer that comes in on those marks. Yep. And to do that, you need to plan. Crystal said, I have poor business writing skills. How do I overcome them? Read business journalism, Crystal. It will rub off on you because the words used will be those words important for good business writing. So you've got to engage with some business journalism. That will help. When we are dealing with a scenario or exhibit, how do we deal with it? Well, as with studying and everything else, we break it down into more manageable chunks. Yep, we might try to reference to the requirements, label them. Maybe we can highlight the keywords as highlight functionality. What does the story tell? Where is the story? Picture it. Yeah, make it real. Try and see it in real life. Often they're on fairly relatable areas, so let's see it in real life. Okay, makes sense. Okay. Any So Crystal's coming back. A business journal subscription. Well, at this stage, no. I just have a look at business news on the BBC or something like that, where they do a review of what's happening and why. So what do I do with regards to reading and planning? Just a little approach here. The first thing that's really important is that we read the question carefully, because in an exam, as you've said, you're a bit nervous, and we can get tunnel vision, and we can see things that aren't maybe there. Yep. So a lot of students, when they've asked to do slides, completely don't do any slides in past exams, lose a lot of unnecessary marks. So what are the key words in the question? Yeah, what's the verb maybe? What's the answer format? And is another key word that many people miss, the rule of and. Let me talk about the rule of and. People on past questions which have said, what are the benefits and drawbacks? And in determining its future aims and objectives, there is ands here that in the stress of exams, students in the past have completely missed out. Yeah, so it's really important that you see that. Yeah, so we need to break it down. What is it saying? And then we need to look at that, and we need to think, well, how many marks am I going to get here? As I said to you, project management exercise in mark acquisition. It's a project management exercise. And if this was, say, 10 marks, what am I, where am I going to get the marks from? Here's another, spot the marking guide. So it says, discuss whether or not the objectives of directors of a quoted company are conflict with those of the company shareholders, 10 marks. So what do I see here? Well, I see the objectives of directors, let's say up to 5, objectives of shareholders up to 5, maybe any conflict up to 2, maximum of 10. You need to get over 5 to pass, but you should be using subheadings and structure it. Yep. Really important that we do that. Yeah, you've really got to focus on the marker. Yep. So in terms of a presentation tip, I'm in the business of making the marker's job easy. Yep, the markers have to mark quite a lot of scripts. And the more you can help the marker mark the script, the more likely you're going to get your marks. Yep. What do we need to do? Well, we need to have clear layout. We use subheadings. We use headings to say what we're going to say, and then we say it. We leave white space and gaps just to help them navigate our answer more easily. Also, from a psychological point, say you meet someone for the first time, and when you meet them for the first time, you say, oh, hello, they go, you think, well, they're a bit of an idiot. And although there's no negative marking in the exam, I think it's very important for you to psychologically introduce yourself to the marker with, the equivalent of a good firm handshake, and that would be a good opening statement. Yeah. So, don't start with a poor statement, because it just doesn't reflect very well on you. Yeah. So, okay. Any questions on any of that? Daniel said, is the requirements linked to a single exhibit? Often it is, Daniel, but I can't give you that as a general rule always. That is the whole point of SBL. It's testing your ability to interpret and read and see, make a judgment. What is an example of a good opening statement? Well, an example of a good opening statement is a concise kind of, it depends on what the question is, but you don't start with a waffly spelling mistake. Think about what you're going to say at the beginning. If we are going to present in tabular format for identifying risk, impact, and recommendation, Well, it's a bit, I mean, Chai, that's a very, very specific question. Would I present in tabular format? Maybe. I mean, it's going to take me more time to create that. It never asks you to present it a certain way. But yeah, I can see, yeah, I mean, you could use a subheading. This is the risk, this is the impact, this is the action with a subheading. I try to keep it very simple, if I'm honest, and I don't try to create tables and all of that. It's just I haven't got time for this. Just keep it simple would be my point. Casey, due to time constraint, can we write a simple opening statement based? Yeah, it kind of does like rework what the requirement says, Casey. I agree. So I think that answers a previous question someone asked. Tim, to write a report, is that necessary to write introduction and conclusion? Maybe not conclusion, Tim. You might not have time. I just think you need to say report to from date. You need to acknowledge the request for a report. Otherwise, it looks like you're ignoring it. Can I take 2 answer booklets in a paper-based exam? Well, if you fill your first booklet, of course you can. You need a whole booklet, Emily, to write a plan. I'm not sure. I personally would do a plan at the beginning of my answer, title it up plan, and draw a neat line through it. Yeah, you never know. The markers might look at your plan if you are borderline. If it's in a separate booklet that you don't hand in, that's unlikely to be the case. Okay, all right, let's a few more minutes, we'll keep going, and then we've got so when we talk about writing, I've done exercises with students. Actually, we did this anyway. Did it a while ago. I did it in Malaysia with a former head of the examination team. And some students, maybe they're environmentally conscious and they don't like to use too much paper, but they present an answer like this. This style makes it really difficult for the marker to navigate. Yeah, they don't know where to start and stop. And it just makes their job a lot harder. So although the markers really read answers carefully, you want to make them navigate things as easy as possible. Make it clear. Yeah. So rather than do that, I'm reading that and thinking, yeah, okay, okay, and then yeah. Or I could write it like this, where boom, 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 bang, boom, 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 bang, boom, 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 bang, boom, 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 bang. It just makes it easier for the marker. Yeah. So it's important that your presentation has all those points are of equal weight. Sometimes I see the first point that might be 8 lines and the second point 2 lines. And really, you know, you're aiming for the same marks. Think about the weight of your answers. So yeah, that's important. Presentation, communication in written format. That's what it's about. The points I might put subheadings on, and each of these points would be reflective of, here's a point, give me a mark. Here's a point, give me a mark. Okay. Eunice says, do I mean bullet points are acceptable? No, I don't mean bullet points are acceptable, Eunice. Bullet points are abbreviations. The exam is about getting marks. So rather than abbreviate, tell the marker what you are meaning. Yeah. Okay. Brenda, how do we correctly explain for the headings? Well, you know, your heading is just is kind of the bullet point below which you explain. I'd be careful. 2 or 3 sentences, elaborating, yes. 2 or 3 sentences are quite a lot. Be careful. I don't know how long your sentences are, but yeah, just be careful on time. If you think we're going for a mark, we're not spending more than 2.5 minutes, are we, for a mark? So keep that as a budget. Nicole said she missed the point. No, you misinterpreted, Nicole. So thank you for your question. So Nicole says, didn't quite understand my point. If there's 4 questions, yep, and you need to get 50 out of 100. Okay, you need to get 50%. But if there's 4 questions and you only answer 3 of them, and you do get 50% out of question 1, 50% out of question 2, and 50% out of question 3, that is effectively 50% of 75 marks, and that is 37. That's a fail. Yeah, no, that's good for me to ask that. Does that make sense, Nicole? So the point I'm saying to you is you must manage your time so that you answer all of the questions. To get half marks on all of the questions is a relatively achievable objective, but students don't give themselves that opportunity because they do not give proper time management, so they do not answer all of the questions, and they end up getting 50% out of only 75% of the exam, and they fail. Casey, how many sentences should one paragraph be? Well, an articulated sentence with verbs and adjectives that helps explain the point, Casey, is what I say. Yeah. Also remember that the ACCA official answers are there. They give a tutorial input. They're not what would be expected of what a student should do. So, remember that. Yeah, good question, Jenny. I mean, a report, an extract from a report. Yes, I think just again, acknowledge the request. You're not going to get heavily penalized as long as you acknowledge. You're not going to get penalized if you acknowledge a request, Jenny. So good. What else do I have down here for you? So in the exam, we're talking, first of all, about the layout. Are we clear on everything we are going to get in terms of the exhibits, the format? Noor's come back, 2 cents for each point. I mean, no, there isn't a lot of you are wanting like what's the definition of a report? As I've said, it doesn't really matter. Different people will, as long as you acknowledge a report, as long as you make a point that clearly answers a part of the requirement, you'll get the mark. Yeah. So it's important on this session that you are clear on what to expect in your SBL exam. For me, there's 2 aspects of this evening. The first aspect is to get your brain in the right place. So to get your brain in the right place, you need to get structure to your life. There is still some time to go, but if I'm an Olympic athlete, I know when the final is of my event in maybe a year's time, and I've worked out my life from a year's time to today, what I'm doing. Do you know that your exam is in a few weeks' time? Have you worked back from your exam day to today, and you know what you are doing today to get you to that place in 4 weeks' time? Are you appreciative that it's not a technical exam of you regurgitating lots of facts, but it's an exam that requires you to apply these facts in a workplace related way? Yeah, they're the key things that I want to get across today, and that you are comfortable with. So I want to kind of open that out to maybe some questions, because we've been answering great questions so far. I've focused first of all about planning, secondly about SBL and what it focuses on. As I say, we kind of have had the first session of an hour-ish, the second session for an hour-ish, and what I want to give you an opportunity for the rest of our session to do is ask any queries or questions you have. Next time we meet, I'm going to maybe consolidate some of the things I've said by going through a real exam question and show you, when I look at a question, this is what I do. Is this what you do? And if you don't do it, you please need to do this, because that's how you're going to do well in the exam. All right. So let me just put it out there. Some questions of a broader nature, I suppose, in order also to maybe help you further. As I say, if you go on to the ACCA Student Accountant, there's an app. I've written 6 articles on motivation and planning and structure and organization, which are all based on lots of research from psychologists. So they're important. I also put things up on LinkedIn, and I've got a website which, if you want, I'm more than happy to connect with you and share things with you on there. So that's, but for this session, I'm going to answer questions now of a more general nature for as long as you want. Well, we've penciled in about 2.5 hours, so that's our kind of 2 hours or up. Let's give you time to answer questions which you would like. I've got a question from Jenny. Will there be marks penalized if I included some sentences, words in these? Will there be marks penalized if sometimes I include some sentence words by word? There's no negative marking on SBL. So there's no negative marking. So there's no penalization. You have to make sure you get marks for what you do well, but there is no negative marking. Daniel wants me to navigate back to the main reasons students fail. Okay, I'm just going to go, sorry, rather than, I just don't want to mess the presentation up on Zoom. So the reasons students fail are here: poor time management, ineffective reading and planning, poor business writing skills, and professional skills marks. QH says, what are the tips? What are the tips? What are the most important topics to study? Well, the way in which we study SBL is to develop a perspective and understanding on those syllabus areas. Yeah, you're not going to get detailed technical questions, but you need to appreciate the subtle aspects of leadership, of governance, of control, of audit. Yep. And I don't think you can really, that's what's great about the exam. It's not an examination of technical detail, because in the real workplace, you'll just look it up on the internet, but you need to understand the practical outcomes of what's mentioned. So there isn't really top tips. I know students love tips. Whoa, questions coming fast and furious. So again, a similar question. So let me answer this. I don't know what to prepare. I just try to remember the models and practice 100-mark questions every day. Is this enough? I think it's too much, Nor. I think you need to get your own summarized notes on each of those areas under leadership, governance, and so on. And then you need to be going and looking at real exam questions. I mean, if you're doing them every day, you're going to run out of questions quite quickly. I think it's important, Nor, that you get on the CBE platform, and if you're doing a computer-based exam, you need to read the professional skills marking scheme. That's important. You're doing a lot of work there, Nor. I think you need to have a timetable of living so you don't become overwhelmed. You need to be practicing full answers to time. See how you get on that if you're either doing it on a paper-based or computer-based. That would be my recommendation. Jenny has said, it won't be a good expression to the examiners, is it? Refer to question. Sorry, Jenny, I'm getting lots of questions. Will there be marks penalized? I think that's what you're linking to, Jenny. It won't be a good impression, maybe not, but the examiners are not there to penalize you. They're there to give you marks for what you do well. Yeah, so there's no negative marking. Will handwriting affect your marks? No, as long as you can read it, Beatrice. And that's, again, the benefit of a computer-based exam. If your handwriting, it's pointless writing stuff that no one can read. So to help, maybe double space your lines if you have big writing. If you're afraid they can't read your answer, it's not worth writing anything, is it? So it's good that you're self-aware, Beatrice, and just make sure people can. Maybe ask your friends, can they read that? Alia, what's the agenda for tomorrow's session? As I've said, Alia, we're going to talk about SBL specifically. I'm going to be looking at some questions from Specimen 1 and show you how we would approach those. So it would be important, as we've said in the pre-notes, I don't know whether you got the pre-notes or not, but I think we said have a look at Specimen Paper 1. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. If my study technique right now is correct, I'm currently doing a lot of practice from BPP. Should I do other things that's more? No, that as long, I mean, the other thing I think is important is if you're doing tuition with a tuition provider, for you to understand where you are, you need to get proper marked feedback, and you really need to do a mock exam 2 times. If you're doing it as a computer based, you need to do it on the platform, and you need to send that in and you need to get it marked so you know exactly where you are good and where you are weak, because otherwise how do you know? Yeah, I know it's difficult in lockdown, but that's what you need to do. You really need to at the very minimum get some marked feedback on what you do. Yeah, because so students of mine, I would mark many mocks for them, and they wouldn't be very good to start with, but I would give them feedback saying there's not enough mark focus, it's not a project management exercise in mark focus, and they get better and they get better. So that is the key to SBL, is practicing, not learning loads of theories. Is can you come up with some or enough? You don't need to get 100%, you need to get over half. Can I come up with enough points in the time which I have? One, I'm covering the topics, doing questions, but you need to get feedback. One, so 1 mark. Usually we need to write how just one good articulated sentence with verbs and adjectives, as long as it's answering the question. Brenda, as for most of us, English is not our first language. As this it does. It's not, Brenda, an examination of English eloquence. I think, how do you improve business writing? I think if you read business English, I mean, people who only speak English have poor business English. So I get people who only speak English. I mean, it's amazing you speak multiple languages, some of you, but people who only speak English don't speak good business English. So again, even for English people, I'd make them read business English because it is a slightly different language. I do think technology and blockchain. Do I think it's important for the exam? That's not the point, Tan. The point is it's important for business of the future. Yeah, and I think you should have a look at ACCA Insights. Yeah, that is a resource on the ACCA website that goes into lots of it's nice articles. So if you want to read some business English, have a look at ACCA Insights. Talks about blockchain, talks about data analytics. It talks about all of these things that are assisting business going forward. In such a short period of 3 weeks' time, Brenda, I'm not sure what you're referring to. What, to read a few articles? Yeah, you got 3 weeks. I mean, just what's it going to take? Do you have 15 minutes free in a day, maybe, Brenda? That's all it's going to take you to read an article. And I think your business English definitely will improve if you read an article every day in 3 weeks' time, for sure. Yeah, you can even practice reading speed. I improved my reading speed by 3 times by reading a book by Tony Bazan on speed reading. In less than 2 weeks, I tripled my reading speed. So yes, I did it in 2 weeks. You could definitely do it in 3. How do you get feedback from tutors if we self-study? Well, that is difficult, Casey. And you have to attend seminars like this, and I'll give you some feedback on a question tomorrow. If you can get a study buddy to give you feedback, maybe, who's doing the paper with you, that might help. But yeah, it's important. Josephine, how do we access this recording? Okay, I think it will be sent to you, Josephine. How to practice in short period of time effectively. 3 hours, well, it's a 4-hour exam, Mohammed. You have to give yourself some exposure to that. Yes, that looks like the correct link. I can't click on that link, but yeah, I mean, it's important we have full familiarity with the ACCA website. You know, people look at some of these online tuition people that, oh my goodness, they're just wasting your time. So yes. So thank you. Lots of fantastic questions there. maybe you can, okay, here we've got one more from Casey. If we run out of SBLs to practice, some of the, I would say some of the old P1 and P3 questions, which are available in the Kaplan and BPP kit, are definitely useful for making you structure your thoughts correctly. So, you know, it talks about all the topic areas. What I'd say is the SBL questions will not tell you to use a specific model, or will not tell you, I think there was one on marketing and IT, and it won't say interactivity, individualization. You would have to know that when we're marketing online, we can exploit the eyes, and we know what the eyes are. It won't spell it out for you. Yep. But they're, you know, as long as you appreciate that, they're not bad. But you definitely need to make sure that you are getting exposure to a full 4-hour case. Of course, Farah. Yes, of course. Will you have ample time? But the key point, Farah, is to organize your time. Is to organize your time. Maybe I'm committing here, but maybe I should put something on LinkedIn for you every day about organizing time. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will post something. Oh, I'm committing here, but I will regularly post something about keeping you focused and keeping you reminded of what is needed to be done. Is that okay, Farah? But you need to take ownership yourself. You need to get a timetable, and you need to break that down. Yep. Yeah, be fine. So do we have a formula? A formula? No, Brenda, we don't have a formula. It's an applied exam. It's not a regurgitative exam. But you need to think, a formula would be, who's the audience? What's the verb? What's the professional skills marks? They are the things we need. You can, yeah, as I think if you're using a shorthand form, yes, but I think you would have to, if you said FS, that doesn't mean financials. I think if I said financial statement brackets FS and then used it, that would be appropriate. MPV, I get that. Yes, that's a common one. So that's fine. Well, if you said cold fold company and then CC, that would be fine, Brenda. Okay, well, if you haven't done so, I would like you, before we meet again tomorrow, to just have a look at the specimen question 1 and have a look at how it's structured, just in case we haven't had a chance to do that. I'm going to have a look at a couple of questions on there. For some of you, you were also asking me about the difference on professional skills marks. If you look at the answers, you will see how there is a distinction between professional skills marks for different levels of answers. So that's important for you to do. All right. So what has been great today has been all of your questions. If you have any questions between now and next time, maybe save them up, or you could forward them to Brian if you want. He might be able to. I'm not sure whether that's possible. But you know, if you have something that comes to mind over the next day, store it. Ask me next time, and I'll try and answer it for you. But your job is to get your brain in the right place, is to get your body in the right place, and is to get your knowledge in the right place by making sure you're using appropriate resources. To do that requires a lot of organization, it requires planning. And if you've not got that in place at the moment, you need to get that in place quite quickly, because as people keep pointing out, it's about 3 weeks or so away. Okay. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. Have a great day. I will speak to you tomorrow. Thank you all. Stay safe. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to leave this. So thank you very much. Talk to you tomorrow. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, John. I will see you bright and early tomorrow. Thanks, Ryan.